behalf of the Soyinka Center for Investigative Journalism, we welcome you. I know that later on the program, we shall invite a member of the board of the Soyinka Center for Investigative Journalism to welcome us all formally. But permit me first to recognize the presence of some very distinguished personalities here. I recognize the chairman, the Netherlands ambassador tonight, Dr. Ari Van der Biel. We thank you very much for obliging us with your presence. Please and appreciate you for putting our hands together for him. The most supportive of what we're doing here are the Soyinka Center for Investigative Journalism. May I also especially recognize the presence of His Excellency, the British High Commissioner to Nigeria, Mr. Robert Wole. Thank you also. He was here with us last year. He's still very supportive. Thank you. I am aware that His Excellency, the Governor of Rivers State, is on his way here. And as soon as he comes, of course, we shall recognize his presence. Meanwhile, a representative of His Excellency, the Governor of Lagos State, is here as well. We thank you very much, Mr. Balogun, for being a part of this process. We know that Lagos is one huge construction site now, so if the Governor is unable to be here with us, he must be overseeing some construction process going on somewhere. But beyond that is the fact that we'll get the big magistrate to a bit about this moment, and to say that the great mind in whose honor this center has been named, and who has been a constant source of inspiration to a great number of Nigerians and indeed the world at large, Professor Wole Soyinka is also here with us. Please let's put our hands together to welcome. Thank you, Prof. We should try and speed up the process somewhat, but please can I appeal to our young friends who are at the back to please step forward. They say togetherness, I build a lot of full board. So if you could most distinguished member of the board of the WSCIJ, Professor Wole, to welcome us all. Professor.
Today's occasion, other members of the diplomatic corps, today's chief commentator, members of the Board of Judges, it's a pleasure and privilege to welcome you all on behalf of the Board of Trustees of Soyinka Center for Investigative Reporting to today's presentation of awards for excellent work in investigative reporting. Today's award event continues the tradition established in 2005 to encourage the growth and flourishing of investigative journalism as a mechanism for consolidating and expanding the culture of transparency and accountability in governance and of probity in corporate governance and public life. I'm pleased to welcome in particular members of the diplomatic corps who are here not only in their capacity as representatives of their government, but also as friends of the Soyinka Center's effort to promote investigative journalism as a means of enhancing democracy and good governance in Nigeria. Without any intent of becoming an oligarchist, we would like to appeal to representatives of countries with long traditions of democratic culture and transparent governance to continue to support the Soyinka Center in its effort to promote democracy through investigative reporting, training, mentoring, and advocacy. Today's award is one of the main events of the center. The award, which started in 2005, designed to recognize media practitioners that encourage the exposure of corruption, regulatory failures, and human rights abuses in print and electronic journalism. The award is named after Wole Soyinka as a recognition of his half a century of flagging commitment to challenge the truth to power through creative writing, popular essays, and public activism that campaign without neck against human rights violations, corruption, and abuse of power, not only in Nigeria, but across the nations of the world. In the last 4 years, 17 journalists have received the award. But out of the 17 awardees, there have been only 2 female journalists. Even in this year's pool of applicants, there are 132 entries and only 15 of these are female journalists. While welcoming the many representatives of the media and the audience today, we call on more female journalists to engage in investigative journalism, despite its risks and challenges in a country without a freedom of information legislation. We are confident that once our women throw their journalistic and ethical energy at investigative journalism, their performance will be as stellar as that of their male counterparts. While thanking the embassies that have supported this initiative in the past, we thank the Embassy of the Netherlands for funding this year's award in particular. We welcome representatives of Zimbabwe, Multimedia Limited, Team Photography, Laredo, Lavage, and Guaranga Foundation for their support as well. Finally, we welcome our media partners and members of the Board of Judges for this year's award. Once again, on behalf of the board, I welcome our distinguished guests to this year's Wole Soyinka Award for Investigative Reporting. Thank you very much.
Investigative journalism also in the house. Mr. Soyinka, President, Nigerian Guild of Editors, thank you very much for obliging us with your presence. The Second Secretary to the Netherlands Embassy, Mr. Roland Soyinka, thank you also for being a part of this process. Active politician, Mr. Wole, I think the local government also extends to where we are. Mr. Wole, as I cited in a while ago, thank you very much for being a part of this as well. In fact, it's quite involved, very much involved in the center. I invite His Excellency, the Netherlands Ambassador to Nigeria, to present the Chairman's address. With his own international environment for freedom of expression and its import for anti-corruption. Please let's put hands.
I'm looking to a red carpet, and I'm more used to orange carpet. I'm first. Good afternoon, almost good evening. In the first place, Prophet Wole Soyinka. Second time we shared this event together. Also, a warm welcome to a very good colleague of me, Bob George, the British High Commissioner, and of course the chairman of the centre. And really, ladies and gentlemen, I have to say, somebody representing the Royal House in Holland, where protocol is so important that protocol duly is observed with these short words. It is a great honor and pleasure for me to chair this 4th edition of the Wole Soyinka Investigative Reporting Award. Since 2007, my government is co-financing this event through a special human rights fund. And with the Wole Soyinka Center for Investigative Journalism, we just concluded an extension of our commitment to this initiative for the next 3 years. This is also done to acknowledge the excellent work of Professor Wole Soyinka, who is praised all over the world for his fight for freedom of expression and a strong defender of human rights. Allow me to say a few words about our human rights policy. This is, in my view, appropriate because the award for investigative reporting is designed to honor annually the works of Nigerian reporters that promote not only transparency and accountability, but also human rights principles. And I would like to quote the message of my minister, the Minister of Foreign Affairs in the Netherlands, on Human Rights Day this year. For those who forgot, tomorrow is Human Rights Day. Not a day we can afford to let pass unnoticed. Quote of my minister: men, women and children, no matter who they are, no matter what they do, have rights that can never be taken away from them. Governments around the world have an obligation to protect and promote these universal rights. But in many instances, they fail their own citizens. The Dutch government wants to lend a helping hand to human rights defenders all over the world. We do this through support to local human rights defenders and their organization, and through regularly urging local authorities to improve the situation of human rights defenders and give them the protection they deserve and protection. An example of a project funded by my embassy in the fight against human rights and against corruption is our cooperation with CERAP, the Socio-Economic Rights and Accountability Project. I believe there are representatives of CERAP here today. The main objective of this cooperation is to reduce corruption and other inappropriate practices at the magistrates' courts level and to improve access to justice for all citizens, especially the vulnerable and marginalized sectors of the population, such as the poor and women. Tomorrow, as I said, is Human Rights Day, but today is International Anti-Corruption Day. And a series of activities is organized in Nigeria by the IATT, the ICPC, the EFCC, and other governmental agencies. According to the EFCC, in spite of some recorded successes, the battle against corruption is far from being won. The EFCC noted that despite the nation's vast natural resources, Nigeria still remains among the most impoverished nations of the world as a result of corrupt practices. or as the head of the operations of the EFCC, Lagos, said, corruption has eroded the quality of life and created instability in the country. Where would this country be when the $400 billion of your oil income, which since independence are unaccounted for, according to the former head of EFCC, Mr. Ribado, were spent for development of this great nation? By the way, this amount is equivalent to 6 Marshall Plans. In my view, Nigeria would be much better off, and this money was properly used for development. And the Millennium Development Goals would probably have been met before the United Nations even started to formulate them in the year 2000. Though it is evident that corruption is not particular to Nigeria, some say it has been elevated to a viable enterprise here. You sometimes refer to it as the Nigerian factor, and no one is more aware of it than ordinary Nigerians that suffer from it daily. Corruption is one of the most widely discussed issues in Nigeria. And to my great surprise and also delight, the media write extensively about the topic, and definitely not in diplomatic language. Some, like the American anthropologist Daniel Smith, even speak for this reason about a culture of corruption in Nigeria, where 419 has become an inescapable part of daily life, and where you have to write, "This house is not for sale," on your own front door. And the use of corruption is not a recent phenomenon. I would like to remind you about the book of Chinua Achebe wrote, "No Longer at Peace," still relevant more than 30 years ago when it was published. However, citizens of New Zealand and Denmark, the two top corruption-free countries according to the Transparency International Corruption Perception Index, have got necessarily more morals than Nigeria. Corruption is universal and will not end, because human beings are greedy by nature. It is important how you check it, and it is through institutions driven by individuals who are committed that you can enforce the rule of law and achieve results. But these institutions have to be monitored and subjected to an independent framework. In this respect, I can strongly recommend to you the recently published book by Michaela Rom with the title, "It's Our Turn to Eat." The story of a Kenyan whistleblower, John Katingo. John Katingo had been appointed as Kenya's new anti-corruption czar. In choosing this fearless crusader and former journalist, the new government signaled its determination to end the practices that have made Kenya an international byword for sleaze. But John had to run, having realized that Kenya's new administration, far from breaking with the past was using near identical techniques to pilfer public funds. It's our turn to eat, explore questions that have troubled outsiders for decades. What is it about African society that makes corruption so hard to eradicate, so devastating in its impact? The book could as well have been written here in Nigeria. But there is not only negative news. The fight against corruption is making progress. Nigerians' position on the corruption perception index has been improved substantially over the past years. Was the country till 2005 always in the lowest bracket? Since 2006, it moved several places to rank 121 out of 180 countries in 2008. Unfortunately, it dropped a few places, 9 places to be precise, this year. It serves no useful purpose for the government officials to express patriotic surprise and outrage at Transparency International's verdict. What we all had expected is an admission that the current effort has failed, and a sincere and more robust war against corruption needs to be waged, and human rights issues, despite the resistance they encounter. In many countries, these journalists work in very difficult circumstances, and sometimes great personal risks, and they deserve our full support. We would like to challenge the organizers to select a series of articles for this year's award for publication in book form, to make the participants' research results known to a wider public and as lessons learned for your future generation. And you can count on our support in doing this. Let me conclude by strongly
of investigative journalism in tackling the issue of corruption and human rights. An international environment for freedom of expression is of greatest importance and is crucial in the fight against corruption. Finally, please allow me to already congratulate the prize winners of this evening. And I wish them the inspiration and the courage to continue their very important work over the years to come. I'm ready. Thank you. Thank you.
The international environment for freedom of expression. Our very distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. I have a very special privilege and honor to recognize the presence of a very courageous sister, the wife of a very good friend, Zara Nuburibadu. Thank you very much for allowing us your presence here. We are also thankful for your presence. Sister Nuhu Ribadu, Zainab Ribadu, of course, the brother Suleiman Ribadu is here as well. The other members of the family who have come to be a part of this process this evening, we thank you all. Permit me to also recognize the presence of the chairman of the Socio-Economic Rights and Accountability Project, the members of the judges, quite a number of them are cited. I think Boyola is in the house. Boyola, thank you very much. It's been a while. At the back yonder. Billy Shadiga, thank you also. Ruben Abati, Stella Dean, Ayobe, Massimo, but we're sure that we'll very much at the moment now. By the flow of the program, we're supposed to hear from Rotimi Amitu, who will still join us here. If not, we'll send a representative that his counterpart in Lagos State has done by sending on Mr. Chudley Awobi.
Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, let me relate up front that this is a general report aimed less at the 2009 edition of the Wole Soyinka Award for Investigative Reporting than on the need for future entrants to appreciate the basic requirements, propositions, and expectations of the award. Because most of the entries appear to miss the import of investigative reporting at the core of the award, it is doubly important to stress this point. As there are no runners up, only winners, it is fair that future entrants should be made aware of certain do's and don'ts. But first, in the tradition of the Wole Soyinka Center for Investigative Journalism, it is my pleasure to present the panel of judges in order to meet routine demands of transparency. So let me begin straight away by identifying the colleagues on whose mandate I am standing on this podium. May I request that if they are in this hall, they may rise to be recognized for the very painstaking job they have done in the 2009 edition of the Wole Soyinka Award for Investigative Reporting. In no particular order, Boyeola, Muiwa Dekeye, Bolano Lalemi, Stella Dean, Larry Doe, Ruben Abati, Ayobe, Bile Oshadibe, and Odia standing here. Although Stella Dean and Larry Doe were unable to sit with other members at the final session, the assessments we they sent in advance informed and helped the process.